Alright, like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. It's Netflix time. Vincenzo, episode 5. Spoiler alert, let's get it. So in the last episode, we found out that Se-han is actually the head of the Babel E&C company. Torturing Mr. Wang, saying, look, I'm the head of the company, don't ever forget that shit, you just a puppet. I feel like eventually he's going to get tired of the abuse, but he's got to put up with it for now. Meanwhile, Vin and Cha are trying to find strategies to actually beat the company, and decide to actually go against Babel Chemicals itself. Meanwhile, the monk gets a visit from a guy he hasn't seen in a long time. He actually works for the company, but it's not by choice though. And on top of that, his nose starts bleeding. We know he's sick, but we don't know how sick. So while Wang's in the gym, Vin approaches him as a kid like he's fascinated with his work. But all he wanted to do was get information, and he now realizes Wang is clearly not the boss. Because we know who the boss really is. Yeah. Anyway, he calls up Cha, she's doing her little exercises, and he still keeps that goofy persona with her for the time being. At the cafe, Vin and Cha are going over their strategies. Then they place a bet on whoever can make one of the Babel tech companies flip. If one does it before the other, they can finger flick him on the forehead. Seems childish, but it's about competition. And then we have Mi-han. She's reflecting on the events that occurred when she was stuck in the laundromat. Yeah, when she thought she was about to get dun-dun-dun. Takes a meeting with the boss again. She's determined to get to the bottom of it. She's going to find out who really is Vincenzo Casano. So she goes to the plaza in the office and finds the secretary pretending to be Vincenzo with that cheap ass lighter. But she clearly wasn't fooled by that shit. But then right she's about to leave, Cha shows up with the real Vincenzo Casano. So as they're talking, Cha convinces Vin not to talk, because she might recognize his voice from the incident. She tells her his tonsils got taken out so he can't speak. She goes along with it for a while, but you can tell she can sense something. She leaves for now, but you know her spider senses are tingling. Meanwhile, Se-han gets called into the office, still keeping up with that dim-witted persona. And because of the situation, the boss has no choice but to move him up from intern to partner. You guys act like he's so excited about the position, but we all know who he really is. Meanwhile, Vin and the crew are coming up with more strategies, and Cha goes down a list of people that are important. Mr. So, the head of the pharmacy, Lau, the head of project management, and of course Mi-hyung's boss that's in the middle. So they plan to go out to Mr. So first. They try to convince him to let go of his clients or else. Meanwhile, Vin is out there inspecting the room. Meanwhile, Wang's having a board meeting. He's just pissed off about all the events that occurred. Then Se-han calls him and tells him about new developments. He tells him to put the plan into action. What crooked plan does he have up his sleeves now? Vin and Chan is trying to convince the workers to fight back, but they're so scared of the company. Her way doesn't work, and Vin's of course does. Mr. Wang then has a meeting with some corporate bigwigs. I'm guessing he's about to compensate these workers for their hard work. One of the workers is the monk's friend. Once he ends up shaking Wang's hand, he accidentally spills blood all over him, and then collapses on the ground. But Wang doesn't give a fuck about him. He's mad because he got all this blood all over his suit. So yeah, this guy's in real bad shape. Back at the restaurant, the random thugs are in there eating his food, and he ended up pulling a nail out of his mouth and saying it was in the food. Now I'm assuming they did that on purpose just to get out of pain and trying to make it seem like it's a bad restaurant. But Vin just happens to come back in the nick of time. You know he ain't playing that shit. They try to start a ruckus and easily get their candy asses handed to him. And of course Vin makes him pay for the food, no fucking around. And then Vin gives him extra money for the property damage. He not even sugarcoating no more that he's about that life. They go back to the office. Secretary man's like, yeah, I got a date. Cha's like, have fun and don't fuck it up. Hilarious. But because she lost the bet, now it's time to get flicked in the head. But he just love taps her. It's subtle moments, but you can tell he's kind of warming up to her a little bit. And all of a sudden, Se-han pops up and tells Cha that he made partner. And somehow, Se-han and Vin get into an argument about spicy food. They all go out to dinner. It turns out neither one of them can handle spicy food except for Cha. I mean, Se-han does a better job than Vin, but still. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, the monk's friend's all fucked up. And he finds out from the doctor that he has a certain type of leukemia. The doctor's telling him it couldn't have been from the job, but we know that's bullshit. Because quite simply are the chemicals that he worked with. The RDU 90 stuff. Which is basically a huge part of the narcotics they put in the painkillers that they sell. Back at the restaurant, clearly Vin cannot handle spicy food like that, so she carries him out. But when it comes to Cha, Se-han says he's not gonna keep going easy on her. Back at the plaza, all the tenants are concerned about their futures. And all of a sudden, for the first time in the series, the monk actually stands up and tells everybody his training is complete. Then we get a scene as Mr. So is going to work. He finds all these people in his office, which are mostly some of his clients. Of course, Vin and Cha pop out the blue to let him know he fucked up. Then we get a flashback to one of his associates spewing all the information, and Cha had it all recorded on her phone. Oh, so that's the guy Cha was talking to when she was on the rooftop with Se-han back a couple episodes. But not only that, they found all his assets and removed them, because he had it hidden behind a painting in his room in gold bars. 600 million zenny, god damn. And where'd that money go to? Donated to all the family's victims. Yes, sir, you got. And then Cha and Vin have a meeting with Mi-hyung, and then Vin actually starts speaking. Yeah, his voice got better, but we see you putting two and two together. Mi-hyung decides she's finally taking over the cases. Boss is like, yes, that's what we wanted, about goddamn time. Yeah, Se-han, they going full-fledged with this shit. But it's crazy to think they still don't know who Se-han really is and what he's really all about. Later on, Cha asks Vin if he's really going to stay in Korea. She doesn't really get a legit answer, but you can tell she really wants him to stick around. For some reason, Mr. So was attacked and left on a random island. They left him plants and things to grow for food. Meanwhile, his wife is on the other side of the plateau trying to call and find him. And now they're getting themselves ready for the big case. Me, Hun, and the crew come in first. They thought Vin and Chan was popping up next, but then this random ass lady comes through. She's like, this camera crew don't get the hell out my way. And then she drives off in a little Beetle. And then pulling up in that blue sexiness, here comes Cha and Vincenzo in pimpery fashion. And then on the other side, we get an abstract piece about how Babel E&C company has not been respecting their workers, and the violence and blood it bestows upon them. After all that, it's officially time. Let's get this trial popping. So now it's time to get some justice. Slick the easy out the hazy, mister. Big, could have got them slogan.